So today's a very special day. It's Tiferet Shabbat Tiferet. And we're in this sandwich between Pesach and Shavuot, the giving of the Torah, Sinai. And we're in this count. And today's Tiferet Shabbat Tiferet, which means to be in this, to just be in the zone and enjoy it. Like just, this is the zone day, being in the zone. So, for example, the ozone, speaking of the zone, the ozone's the perfect protection of the sun to the earth. So the sun's flow, the ozone's really the brakes, it's the protector, and then there's earth, the receiver. So the attribute of this week is keeping things in balance. So the earth's distance from the sun with that thickness of ozone is perfect for life on earth. And that's really where we're supposed to be. If I had a guitar right now and I was going to play for you guys a concert, so for me to play the right songs at the right volume, let's say you guys were a bunch of 90-year-olds and I was playing in an old folks home, that's going to be certain songs, certain volume levels. Probably should be actually louder so they could hear it. But not loud style music. It should be more mellow music but play loud enough they could hear it. So that balance of really being in the perfect situation. See, just hitting my guitar strings without any limiting of the oscillation of the strings. Think about it, when you see a guitar player and he's got his left hand on that board, it's called a fretboard. So if I just hit the guitar with nothing on it, without touching the strings, it's going to sound horrible. But what happens is when I put on the brakes, so to speak, I limit the oscillations of the strings with my fingers on the fretboard. Because the higher up I go, the less length there is in string, the tighter it's going to be, the higher the pitch will be in those strings. So the flow is just hitting the strings. The brakes are the fretboard. And playing a beautiful chord is this week, that's Tiferet, is playing the chords that are appropriate for the situation. If you're my recipients, I would play one set of songs. If I had Hasidim from my neighborhood, I would play a totally different set of songs. If I had old folks in Los Angeles or Florida, I would play a totally different song. My fingers would be always informed by the recipient. And that's Tiferet, as I said before, excellent interaction, that your interaction's just right. That's the goal. So you want to have as good interaction as you can today. But today's Tiferet Shabbat Tiferet, the third day of the third week, which means there's special energy today for great relationship. So as we said yesterday, if you have someone that you need to call, but it's sometimes contentious, today's a good day to call. Because there will be extra energy towards you being careful how you speak and them perhaps being able to fix their communication. And so there's a great time to call home. Speak to the old parents, the rents, okay? Anyway, but the calendar's going to move on. There will be the fourth week, which has to do with perseverance. The whole fourth week is all about perseverance. And I've noticed some of you are here every day, which means you do have some aspect of perseverance. You guys are here 2 days, some perseverance. Yeah, this guy's got serious perseverance. How long have you been in this class?
I don't remember.
You got it. I also have it. That's one of my most special attributes is perseverance. I loved surfing when I was a kid. I'm still surfing 37 years later. I loved mountain biking as a kid. I'm still mountain biking 37 years later. I liked a particular girl when I was in yeshiva. So before I dated in the regular dating pool, I told my rabbis I want to first date this one girl. And I was right. I married her. 20 years we've been married. I just stick with things. I decided to become observant when I was right after university. I never turned back. From the day I heard about Shabbat, I've been keeping Shabbat and kosher and all the other things. That's my attribute, perseverance. If I like something, I stick with it. When I was a little kid, I was crazy about beer. Beer. Beer, the Australian drink. What is the advertisement? Foster's. Australian for beer.
No, it's not.
I know it's not.
No one drinks.
But that was their advertisement.
Australians don't drink this. That's why we send it overseas.
In these oil cans. Anyway, I loved beer as a kid, and I'm way more into beer. Every year I'm more into beer. You guys, I take people beer tasting to breweries. Anyone want to go beer tasting? Let's see, what's the day for that? I think today's the day for that. I told you I really love beer. So, so maybe today. Simon, you drink beer? Yeah. Let's see, my whole afternoon was kind of messed up, so maybe it's time to go get a beer. Let me decide at 4 if today's beer day. Okay.
Field class.
What?
Field class.
Field class, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I have these friends of mine opened a place with 14 taps. It's just incredible. Every one of them is exquisite. It's in the shuk. Okay, but that's the attribute of the fourth. The fourth week will be all about perseverance. Some people are fly-by-night. You know, they do this, and then they do that, and then they do this, and they're always shifting gears. I blew my mind creating the seminar that I advertised yesterday 15 years ago. And I think it was 15 years ago. I haven't stopped giving the seminar. I give it consistently for 15 years. That's the kind of thing. I just have this. It's the 5th week where I start getting my issues. I'm not very good at breaks, and I'm not very good at the 5th week. The 5th week, which is a really hard week for me, is the week of Hod, and that's focus. The 5th week's all about staying focused. Have you guys noticed that the subject matter of my classes change about every 5 minutes? You notice that? Yeah, that's the attribute called Hod, and that's to just stay on point, which I cannot do. You know, if I were to run a marathon, I'd probably bring my own GPS system tracking me, and at 26 miles, I would somehow wind up at the line and just be like, I made it. You know, they'd be like, who are you? Look at my GPS. I did the whole thing. Yeah, but you didn't go on the course. It's 26 miles is 26 miles, man. I did 26 miles. So,
26.2.
is it really? Oh, thank you so much. So does that mean it's really measured in kilometers? How many kilometers?
A 50K is 31.
Oh, so it's not so simple. So it really is 26.2.
I've
Okay.
done a 50K or
You're a runner?
Yeah. Identifies as surfer, runner, biker.
Yeah. You surf too?
Yes. Not real good. I taught surfing, so my intermediate.
Uh-huh.
You probably got a lot more flow.
Maybe. Anyway, the 5th is focus. 5th is focus, and that's staying on point. Now, you might think that someone who has perseverance is focused. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You might just find something you love and stick with it for years and years and years. You have perseverance. Focus. Give a perfect example of a lack of focus is a man in Home Depot who's in there for a screwdriver. He's going to leave with a cart full of stuff and probably forgot about the screwdriver. Yeah. Formaldehyde. He'll have forgotten about the screwdriver. And that's a lack of focus. Someone who's focused would just run in there, find the screwdriver, take it to the cash register. But that's very difficult for anyone. And just to relate these to God, focus would be to be focused on God. So that if you got a flat tire and you're on your way somewhere, yeah, God, imagine got a flat tire on your way to somewhere important. So if you really had Hod, you'd just be like, okay, God, I get it. Yeah, no problem. You'd keep your cool. Yeah, you'd stay focused, like God's running the show. If you were meant to get that job, you would have not had a flat tire, you know, or whatever. Yeah.
Would you say maybe Hod is more about priority as opposed to keeping your awareness and your focus on something for long, for long periods of time? It's more about keeping the right focus in that.
They're both aspects. They're both aspects of Hod. One is keeping focus on the bigger picture priorities, and the other aspect of Hod is sticking in the micro, like staying on point and being able to study one of your books for a long period of
I'm
time.
thinking, how who can really, who can really focus, read a book and then have their mind wander, especially if the subject material is, you have to think about it. How long
Hode's
until-
not very popular today. People lack focus.
Isn't that a discipline? Isn't that a natural attribute?
Some people have it naturally. I have a son with it. Yeah, ever since he's little, he can go for hours and hours in one task. And he's very, very big Talmud scholar. And today I was learning Talmud. And I have to say, after about an hour and a half, I was like, okay, next subject, and no, there's another hour and a half of this subject. And we were learning 3 lines. 3 lines of Talmud that are about this long for 3 hours. And I'll tell you something, I kept reaching for my cell phone. The quick draw when you're bored? I started reaching for my cell phone. And I was like, pat, keep the cell phone away. And then I was like, suddenly had to go to the coffee tea room and get a tea. But I kept myself sitting down. And about 15 minutes later, forcing myself through this excruciating Chinese water torture, broke through the piece. Broke through the piece in a way that I believe when the Rabbi came to explain it, he comes after to explain it. And he doesn't really explain it. He sees if we ask the right questions. Because in Judaism, it's all about questions. And he comes and checks out our questions. If we ask the right questions. If we didn't, he'll ask them. And say, okay, you go now talk for the next 30 seconds about this question. And see if you got it. Anyway, I believe that we cracked the code on this particular piece of Talmud. And only in the merit of the fact that I forced myself to break my attributes, which is to blow off focus. And I hung in there, stayed focused, and I made it. It was great. What a feeling. And he never even asked the questions we wound up asking when he came to teach. Okay, if it makes you guys feel any better, I'm a student just like you. I spend half my day like a little kid in a seat just going, and studying pieces that I don't understand and working through it. Right now we're in Sanhedrin. We're discussing lethal force with break-ins. You guys probably think lethal force issue, it's a big issue. Can you use lethal force in break-ins? In the U.S., different states have different laws about lethal force. What do you think Texas does?
Shoot them all. The biggest gun you got.
You get to shoot the guy who broke in and everyone else out on the sidewalk, walking by. So in Texas, you can even shoot for your property. You know that?
Someone's on your property.
Oh, you're from San Antonio? Yeah, some guy
I've never shot a gun, so.
That's cool.
Very attacked the rest.
Yeah, some guy comes and says, give me your iPhone, and you just blow his head off. And there's no court case. He was trying to steal my iPhone.
That's on my phone.
Trying to steal my iPhone. Now he's dead, so he can't really claim anything. So, there's not going to be much of a fight here. Yes, but I'm sure it prevents a certain amount of theft. Certain amount. Anyway, but it's all in the Talmud. Amazing, awesome detail in the Talmud on what's really going on there. And what it came out to in the end, this thief doesn't want to kill anybody. The only reason, you ready for this? The Talmud says the only reason this was ours, it took us. The only reason the thief would use lethal force, which causes what? You to have to use lethal force, is because the thief figures you'll use lethal force. It's crazy. The thief would love to get in and get out. In fact, he'd love to get in, and if he got caught, hand you back your earrings and your diamond and your cash and just run. Like, okay, here it is, bye. But he's scared that you're going to freak and try to kill him. And since you're going to try to kill him, he's going to try to kill you first. And since he's come in and ultimately realizes he's going to have to kill, you get to kill him and there's no prosecution. So lethal force, any state in America, California allows it, Texas, we mentioned New York, Alabama, Louisiana, all the South lets you do it, but there's about 20 states that let you use lethal force. And so they are blessed states because they're in line with the Talmud. So they have the blessing.
That's a concept?
That's not a concept. The reality is you're allowed to use lethal force. That's a reality. If the Talmud says you're allowed, the debate's over. The fact that we went in and fought it out today in yeshiva, that was just fun. We knew what the answer was.
Is that a unanimous conclusion?
Unanimous. It's in the Talmud. It's in the Torah. And the Torah uses crazy language. You know what the Torah says? Torah says you catch someone breaking in, kill him, and you want to know what it says next? Ein lo damim. Ein lo damim. You know what that means? God, what's ein lo damim? You speak Hebrew. Ein lo damim. What? Yeah, he has no blood. You just killed a cockroach. He's not even a human. That guy is not even a human being. The guy breaks in your house, he's not even a human being.
But how does that relate in today's world where, and also, I mean, it also says to stone your wife if she has sex with another person, or...
Yeah. What's your question?
How can you relate that to today's world? You can't just go up and kill someone who's broken into your house, or stone your wife and cheating on you. Oh,
so this case a little different because it's self-defense. So in a case of adultery, where someone did rape, yeah, so that's also, rape's a different, it wasn't a great example because that's self-defense too. Yeah. And also in the US, preventing rape with lethal force is self-defense, and you're off the hook for it. You know that? Not every state, but almost every state. Preventing rape's the same as using lethal force when you're in doubt of what could be the outcome with this intruder. So if the concern is rape, it's also lethal force is permitted. We have not seen that part of the Talmud yet. I imagine you're allowed lethal force because in the case we had of the break-in, you didn't ask him what he's there for. You know, you got your wife and daughters in the house. No, you don't ask. Ein lo damim. He's come in, he's intruding, he has no blood. You got an oversized cockroach in your house.
It's just the wrong case. The person was drunk and walked into the wrong house.
Right.
And you just killed the man for an accident.
It's terrible. It'd be terrible. That'd be terrible. And it happens all the time. All the time. I just heard a horrible story. I mean, it happened years ago, but I heard it the other day. A horrible story of a couple who came home, and he's a lethal force kind of guy. And his daughter had surprised them that she didn't go sleep at her friend's house, as they thought she had. Well, she got a little surprised too when she got killed by her own father, when he, because someone was in the house and she was hiding to surprise them. So there's a million scenarios. The Talmud was discussing an intruder, who's a real intruder, who doesn't want to kill anyone, but he knows he'll get killed. And why he knows he'll get killed? Ready for this? Because most people freak when someone comes into their house. Most people freak. I shouldn't say it like that. Most people stand up for their property at the risk of their own life. Raise your hand if you'd stand up for their property and the risk of your own life. I'm talking about serious property. Let's say your life savings. Yeah? You wouldn't just try to get out of your house? If you had a back door,
I'd probably get out of it.
you go back door?
It was just material things, probably, yeah. But if it was
Raise your hand, life savings, you'd still go kill the guy. Simon would go kill the guy, you'd kill the guy. Ladies, you'd kill the guy?
Meaning if you have a chance.
Yeah, you have a chance. You might also get killed. He also is going to have a chance. When you have a chance, he has a chance. That's a way of gunfights,
Give it a shot.
Give it a shot? You give it a shot? Okay.
A nice shotgun.
It's an interesting thing. We had the debate also in the yeshiva, and half the guys said lethal force. Half the guys said they'd get out if they could. Half the guys not. What'd you say, Gun?
Yeah, I would.
Take them out?
Yeah.
Take them out. Life savings. You worked your whole life for that money.
Money or life? What are we talking about?
Life savings, money. You'd say take them out. He says take them out. He says take them out. That's why, did you notice before I said you can take him out because he realizes you're going to freak. You're not going to sit there going, my life or my life savings? You're not doing that. You got an intruder. Anyone ever had an intruder while you're there? While you're home? You freak? You a little bit? Did you act irrationally in how you dealt with him? Was he sorry he ever walked in your house? A little bit. I have a feeling he's under-exaggerating. How much?
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, we're capable, human beings are capable of freaking in those situations. And because you may freak, they'll use lethal force. Therefore, you have to use lethal force. And since he came in to use lethal force, which is only because of you, you're off the hook for killing him. Wild, huh? Wild. Anyway, so what I was saying before, it's not conceptual. When a state has laws that are in alignment with Talmudic law, that means they're in touch with truth. You get that? They're with it. When a state is doing the liberal thing and have let go of that, which now means thieves are under whatever, I guess the Torah would say that thieves are now feeling a lot safer about going into people's homes. Rapists are feeling more safe about going into people's homes. So then you're, it's not what you want. Not what you want. Texas may be overboard. Maybe that's too much. Killing people over your iPhone. You know, maybe that's too much. Maybe not. Then you got Arab countries. You know what the punishment in Arab countries is for stealing?
Chop your hand off.
Yeah, then some of them, they'll chop the hand off. That's a pretty strong deterrent. Yeah.
I think you brought up an interesting point though. Like, what is modern society supposed to think when they learn about it, hear about these kind of things, like you said, stoning or pouring hot lead.
Right, all that stuff, yeah.
I mean, I know we don't know the parameters.
That's a great essentials question, which is this course. When you read the Torah and you see all these like kind of radical punishments, death penalty, radical death penalties, of which, it's beyond the pale of essentials to discuss the actual gore of the death penalties, the 4 different types. That's way beyond the scope of essentials. But there's a lot of death penalty. You at least know that much, that there's a lot of death penalty. And it'll say they shall be stoned, or the couple shall be stoned, or whatever it may be. So it's going to sound a little weird, but it was not in order that you ever execute the death penalty upon someone. The Talmud says that any court that ever actually fulfilled a death penalty and killed a defendant within 70 years is called a bloody court. Meaning all the great sages with the long beards who sat on that court, they just had their court get like a lousy name of as a bloody court once in 70 years. If you flip through the Torah, you'll see so many death penalties for so many things. You would think that they're, wow, in the old days, back when they had the Sanhedrin up on the Temple Mount, and that Alaska Mosque, you see, was the high court. It was a round building. And please God, it'll be up there again. And so you would think back in the days where there was actual Torah law here, that there was tons of capital punishment. And the answer is, there was no capital punishment. And the question is, well, why? Why not? And it turns out that Torah law perfectly gets non-dangerous criminals off the hook. Purposely gets non-dangerous criminals off the hook from the death penalty. They might be fined for this, that, or the other, but when it comes to death penalty, the Torah always gets them off the hook. It's just the way it is. So the Torah says death penalty, but once you go into the real laws of the courts and how do you judge a case, it's almost impossible to kill anyone for something they did. But did you notice I said parenthetically, anyone who's not dangerous for society? If they're dangerous for society, they also won't kill him, but they won't let him back out. He won't be going back out to society. He's dangerous to society. They won't kill him. So you want to hear the crazy thing, Pixie, that comes out of all this? We're a non-capital punishment country.
There were prisons, but
What?
there were prisons as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and they had other ways. Not going to go into those. There's other preventative measures than paying out. God knows how much it costs to keep a prisoner alive. They had other ways to take care of things. But this book that's full of capital punishment is for a nation that doesn't have capital punishment. We're a non-capital punishment nation. You know,
It does have it, we just don't use it.
no, we don't even have it.
Israel still does.
It's not that-
For cases like Eichmann, they still have capital punishment.
Oh, that's the
Just don't
state.
use it.
The state. The state of Israel is not a Torah. They're not holding like Torah law.
Yeah.
I'm saying the actual law of Israel is non-capital punishment with a book full of capital punishment. Every other line is like, he shall be stoned, he shall be put to death. And yet it's impossible to do and almost never happened in our history.
So the answer is it's the ultimate last resort, and it's a very...
Even then, it won't happen. If you learn the actual laws, I've learned them.
Okay.
You can't ever do it. You'll never find a time you can do it. It has to thread the needle through all the legal loopholes that the guy will get out of is almost impossible. Now, if he's not a threat to society, but he really harmed, the world, or did something really heinous, how do you guys feel? Tell me, how do you feel about the fact that he got off? Because the Torah somehow, because of the judicial laws of the Torah, it perfectly gets him out of it. How do you feel about that? You like that, Simon? Guy got off? Let's say it keeps happening.
That's the case of Muad. If he becomes Muad, then he gets it.
Adam's muad lo'olam. Adam, man's always muad. Okay? Muad's a vocabulary term, not for this room right now. But men are always considered somewhat dangerous. Okay? Muad means dangerous. Does it bother anybody? Jeremy, does it bother you? Some guy commits a crime and our judicial system perfectly gets him off the hook.
No,
Why?
because he's a soul. There's still a morsel of him that could be good. In fact, something good.
That's nice. I agree with you. God?
I just feel it depends on the crime, really. I mean, if it's
Like, say the guy killed.
if he killed and he gets off because of the laws, then I think it's completely wrong. And I mean, just imagine if it happened to your family, then how would you feel that somebody hurt somebody close to you and then just walked away with it like nothing happened?
Got out of it.
Able to do it again or do whatever you want. So it's
Right.
okay.
Well, again, we determined that they're not dangerous in the future. This was,
Oh, okay.
it was a very specific tiff they had, and
It was like
yeah.
More of
they
a
duked
punishment.
it out and things went wrong. Okay.
More of a punishment to live with what he did, than to release
I
him
mean,
from that.
we don't know if he has remorse or not. We have no clue. Like, we have no idea what.
Okay, so you ready for the answer? I'll give you a hint. Ready? People who do not believe God's running the show. I mean, they may say they do, but they don't live that way. They don't believe God's really in control of this planet during life or after life. They don't really believe that. They may say it, lip service, but they don't truly believe it. In general, when you see a heinous crime in the news, a bad crime, the family can't sleep until justice is served. You ever seen those kinds of stories? They can't sleep. They got to see him either behind bars or a death row. They want to see him dead or behind bars based on the punishment. And they're not going to sleep till they do. Okay, now answer my question. How are we supposed to feel when our sages chose to let the guy off the hook? Yeah. You got the answer? Only if it's the answer, because everyone will get too confused otherwise. My sense is you're about to throw more curves in this.
No, I mean, we should try our best to understand, I think. I mean, there's a concept we need, us Jews, we need to try our best to understand. But again, whatever is the outcome is the will of God. And so we're going to argue with the will of God. If it's based on the Torah, it's God's thoughts.
Excellent. Very nice. Very nice. Like, go with God. God says, let him off the hook, and he's off the hook. I want to hear, I was looking for another answer. Should we be like the families that can't sleep at night until justice is served? What do you say?
You just accept what happened.
That's what,
the families on the other side should understand that happened for a reason and move on.
Okay, that's a high faith answer. That's beautiful. Very beautifully said. Something else I was looking for. Do you think Jews don't believe God is just? I mean, here we let people off the hook. Maybe God's not just.
Settle out of court.
What?
Settle out of court.
Hey, so he's getting the answer now. Ari is getting the, Ari, right? He's getting the answer. What did Ari, say it again? I'll say it. He said, he'll, who did he mean he'll? Hashem, God, will settle out of court, won't he? You get it, Simon? A man of faith, a woman of faith can still sleep at night. Real faith. I'm not talking about lip service faith of the neighbors we all grew up with. I'm talking about the real deal. God's going to pay them. He's going to pay you too. Pay me too. We're all busted. We're like fish that were born with hooks in our mouths. He's going to reel us all in. And that guy's going to get reeled in. Not only is he going to get reeled in, he's already, God knows what he'll deal with now. Because if you know anything about karma, which Judaism very much believes in, that guy's now like, he's a walking disaster, man. He's got a target on his forehead and on his back. Don't expect that guy to have any good, great things coming his way right now. Because he's now officially a stink bug. And he's still on the planet, which is pretty scary. Our planet's scary enough. Just walking around and getting through your life is hard enough. You certainly want to smell like roses, so people at least want you around and want to help you and be at your service best as possible to enable you on your path towards whatever it is you want. But this guy's now a walking stink bug in this world. That's scary. But the worst is, he's going to have to pay the piper afterwards. He's going to have to deal with his maker. Because all of us are born with a hook in our mouth. And no, you don't have to see him behind bars nor killed in this life. Now, that's a level. I understand that's a level. I understand the level. There was a crime in Jerusalem. Remember, there was a crime in Jerusalem. And people were angry at me for not being angrier. It was a kind of crime where it would make most people angry. I don't want to go into its details, okay? Especially with the smaller ears in the room. But it was a bad crime. And people were beyond angry. Everyone was so angry. And I was involved, I was part of the, team of rabbis involved in the situation and trying to help out. And people were coming up to me because they saw I wasn't angry. Why aren't you angry? Don't you want to kill the... And the state was not really taking care of the situation, so there was a lot of lack of justice happening. I'm not saying I'm so holy, I just... And I did tell them, by the way, if I stumbled upon the crime, like I was just walking down the street and I stumbled upon the crime, yeah, that would have been a castration moment for the criminal, yeah? Meaning, remember I mentioned sometimes in the middle of something we freak? I would definitely have freaked and enjoyed it. I would definitely have freaked and I would have taken care of business right there and then. But I wasn't in the middle of a crime. I was dealing with it and hearing about it and dealing with the criminals and dealing with the victims. And I wasn't angry because this is all, anything coming down the pipes, whether it's to you as an individual or to us as a nation or to Jerusalem as a community, is because that's what's coming down right now. And we're going to have to deal with that. But we don't have to go punching people out. And unfortunately, very kind-hearted, innocent people had to sit. They had to do time for some vigilante work because they had to see justice. And so they saw the state wasn't doing it, the police weren't doing it, so they took it in their own hands. And so the criminals didn't go to jail. The angry citizens went to jail for this. But that's also coming down the pipes. Judaism is a spiritual discipline of coming to peace in your heart, in your life, with the world around you. And you've been given free will to act. You can adjust things. You don't have to just sit there and say it's all from God. You can change the temperature of this room. And you can change things in your life But some things just come down the pipe. There's nothing you can do. You just gotta take a deep breath and say, there's something bigger here. It's a bigger picture. What else I want to tell you? Oh, sorry, that was the 5th week. What was the 5th week? Who remembers? It's exactly what I don't have. Focus. 6th week. 6th week is an amazing, amazing week. 6th week is the week of connection. Connection. Now, you probably thought this week was about connection. Like talking about interpersonal stuff. It relates to it. It certainly relates to it. But the 6th week is about connection, like almost physical connection. Like, for example, let's say you want to back up your smartphone on your computer. So you're going to need a certain cable to do that. That cable is the 6th week. That's the connection. If they were pouring cement for this wall here, which they did, when they poured cement for that, I lost my cameraman. When they poured cement for that wall, so, the flow is, a certain amount of cement. You don't want too much because it's just this wall. And the breaks are there was a mold. Have you guys ever seen pour cement there? When they pour cement, there's wood. They put wood slats to hold the mold. That's the breaks, right? 3rd week was breaks. Okay? And then measuring it out to be the right amounts, that's this week. You need a certain amount. You don't need too much. You don't want too little. You can't pour it in 2 pours. It's forbidden, and according to how do you say handasa in English? Engineering. You can't pour cement in 2 pours. It loses its strength. It has strength, but not the same as 1 pour. So you got to be careful that you really get the right amount. It's better to decide on too much than too little. In what should be brought to the kotel, because they had to pour it from the kotel on a crane, because you can't bring heavy machinery here. And but just cutting to the chase, meaning it had the perseverance, meaning the flow kept coming, cement didn't get blocked up. Focus was the driver, certainly was paying attention. The guy running the thing was paying attention. Everyone was staying focused. But there was a little guy up here, a little Mexican guy, he had the other end, the pipe, and he was making sure it wasn't in the middle of the room. He was making sure it was in the wall, the wood slats. You get how that's the USB guy? That's the connection. Otherwise, you got a big mess. You're going to have a pile of cement inside this room without any wall. So it's that last connection. It'd be like going to the concert of your favorite band, and you did everything necessary, and you get to the concert, and what did you forget? The tickets. It's the follow-through. It's like having it all buttoned up, so you actually have the tickets when you get to the turnstile, and you're getting into the concert you tried to go to. You got to have that last. It's the follow-through in the end to make sure you have everything together. Another example of the connection, obviously, is husband and wife. That's the ultimate expression of the 6th week of connection. Another connection is parents to children. Let's say, Arya, you'd like to teach a little lesson to, you want to teach, what's your name again? Oh yeah, Ayla. You want to teach Ayla a lesson about life. And it's a pretty mature lesson. It's very kind of deep level of wisdom. What's the best way to teach it to her? Do you like stories? Like stories? Tell her a story. Teach it to her in a story. And she'll just be listening to the story and listening to the story and listening. And then once she's got the story clear, you could say, by the way, what's the lesson? What's the lesson of the story? And then Ayala will tell you the lesson. And you did it. The part of you that would think up the perfect story for her to get that wisdom you wanted her to get about Shavuot or something is this 6th attribute, which is connection. In Hebrew, it's called Yesod. All of these weeks, each of these attributes are connected to a part of your body. The flow is the right arm, right? You bring close to the right arm. The breaks, left arm. The chest area, this is the relationship area. That's this week. Is the emotions, the chest, the heart. Okay? The perseverance is the right leg. Okay? The focus is the left leg. connection. I'm not going to mention that part of the body, but you can imagine which part is connection. Okay? And then the last one, the 7th week, is called Malchus in Hebrew. It's you at the concert, or it's Ayala with the idea. It's you managed to back up your iPhone or whatever with your computer. It's you produced offspring, with your spouse. It's the final outcome of it all. That's the 7th attribute. So the 7th attribute is the bearing of the fruits of whatever it is you were doing in the first place that required the flow and the breaks and the balance and the perseverance and the focus and the connection, that follow-through connection. The 7th week, the last week, is the actual thing, which might even be just a scoop of ice cream, or maybe you landed the job you wanted, or maybe you got the ultimate relationship, or whatever it is you were after. That's the 7th attribute. You got that? And that's called Malchus. Now, I just want to share with you a little detail that's really crazy, is what I started with on Sunday is that we're going through this count, and no one knows anything about it. You guys right now know more about the counting of the Omer than, I don't know, anyone here raised observant? You raised How much more about the counting of the Omer you think you guys know from Sunday on till today than what percentage of people who are actually counting the Omer and have been counting the Omer since they're kids, with a blessing and everything?
Yeah, I guess we're not really taught so much about it.
So how much do you think they
I
know?
wasn't here since I was even.
You guys probably know 80% more than all the observant Jews in the world who are now, and literally every woman's refrigerator in Jerusalem and Bnei Brak and Brooklyn has a little sheet that you pull one off, each day you tear it off to make sure you counted the day, made the blessing. Each one, in my house, there are announcements at bedtime. Who forgot to count the Omer? Count the Omer. I promise you, my wife knows nothing about any of this stuff. My kids know nothing about anything I've taught you about the counting of the Omer. And it's really, have you ladies enjoyed the knowledge of the counting? It's cool stuff, right? You've been counting the Omer? You fell out? You're still in? You fell out? Anyone still in here? Wow, not bad, not bad. Isn't it nice knowing something about the count? And so tonight, in a few hours, will be perseverance in that balanced connection, in that balanced approach. So it's being able to do that for the long term. So tonight would be a good example of calling someone that's a well overdue phone call. You know, you have certain people that you're not in touch with, that you love, and they love you, but you really should call more. And there's no issues between you. You just love each other, and you just, basic maintenance would be a call. So tonight's that night. Perseverance in connection, not in connection, in that balance in life of your interactivity. Okay, so everyone should try to make a call. Unfortunately, because I know a lot of people, I got a lot of calls. But let me choose one person. Okay, I got somebody. Everyone take a moment, think of someone to call. You got someone? You got someone? You can email it to me. You got someone? Okay. Got someone, ladies? Basic maintenance? Okay, good. You got someone, Jeremy? Okay, so try to get it done before tomorrow's session. And maybe share with me what that was like. Just want to tell you just a little tidbit that's pretty powerful. This is going to sound crazy, but in 1967, which was a very important year for the Jewish people, 1967, on the 6th week, remember 6th week is about connection. On the 6th week of the 6th day of the 6th week was the 6-Day War. The 6-Day War started on the 6th day of the 6th week. What is the 6th day of the 6th week? 6th day of the 6th week is connection within connection, meaning it's ultimate connection. Yeah.
It also happened to be
How'd you know that? I was going to talk about that. It was the 4 blood moons,
Yeah.
which is now going to end this Sukkot, so the final one. You know about the Jewish holidays?
Yeah, that's why I want to go to
Yeah, but it won't be on Rosh Hashanah, it will be on Sukkot, first night of Sukkot. Anyway, did you see the blood moon on Pesach? You didn't?
You can't see it in Israel.
What?
You weren't able to
It's
see
not
me.
visible.
We were all on my parents' cliffs overlooking the ocean. My parents live on the Pacific. And we spent from 3:15 in the morning, where it started to be diminished a little. It's full moon, obviously, Passover night, full moon. It started to be diminished, like barely visibly diminished at 3:15. Fully gone by 4:15. And we all stayed up and watched it. Our Seder ended at 3:15 to run out and watch. And I finally passed out at 4:15. I was watching it in my bed. My bedroom in my parents' house overlooks the ocean. And I was just watching the eclipse from there. Because you can faintly see that's why it's called a blood moon, because you see its shadow. You see our shadow on it, on the moon, the Earth's shadow on it. Anyway, it's very interesting that the year we left Egypt, we had 4 of those in a row. Passover night, it's rare to get these, but to get this is crazy. Passover night, Sukkot night, the first night of Sukkot, full moon with a blood moon, lunar eclipse, full lunar. Passover night the next year, Sukkot night the next year, 4 in a row. It happened a couple times. It happened this 1967, on that special year where Israel got back to most of its biblical borders, at least east-west. And the Jews were expelled from Spain with the same scenario in 1492.
It's only happened 7 times in all of history.
Did it happen in the State of Israel year?
No, I don't know if any of them like previously like visible. But every time it happens on the full fall on the Jewish high holidays, something bad happens.
Not necessarily.
The first one last year was when the Gaza war broke out.
Really?
I got my tattoo on that. I'm getting the second tattoo on the last one.
Listen, the 6th day. It was on when the Jews left Egypt. It was the 4 lunar eclipses. Was when the Jews left Egypt. It's not always bad, Pixie. Just it's big.
Yeah.
It happens on big years.
Yeah.
And sometimes bad for one is good for the other. It's like bad for our oppressors is good for us. So it's not necessarily bad, it just means big.
Yeah.
6-Day War was very good for
Yeah, the State
Israel.
of Israel was announced in there as well.
Yeah. Oh, so was that year? The State of Israel was announced. That was a foursome?
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. 1948, 1967, and now. This is going to be a big year. Were they all sabbatical years? Yeah?
Jubilee years, possibly. Nobody really knows. But 17 and 67. We're coming up to 17.
Huh.
Jubilee.
Sabbatical years.
The next tetrad, according to NASA, won't be for 550 years.
The next what?
Tetrad that lines up with the Moed.
What's that?
The Shemitah, blood moons.
The next blood moons are in 500 years?
550
The tetrad when you've got 4 of them.
550 years?
from now. When they line up with the Moed,
With the
the high holidays.
the big pilgrimage festivals, which was yesterday's class. So we're in for really important stuff, really heavy stuff. Every time I leave Israel now, like I have to fly out in 2 weeks for just a week, but I don't want to leave because if it's going to happen, I don't want to leave. So like even until I leave Ben Gurion, like in my plane, until I step onto the plane, I'm checking the news to see because I'm not going to go. And I've already had to leave twice I've left twice this year since Rosh Hashanah. And you know how many people I've gotten to move here this year because of this year? I knew about this year. You ever hear me give classes on this year?
You're a fisherman.
Huh?
You fish. That's a fisherman for a people. So the people that you've been.
Oh, I'm a fisherman. Dude, I'm a fisherman. Yeah, I'm a big fisherman. But did you ever hear my classes over the years? You know how long I'm talking about this year? I've been talking about this here for 10 years. Yeah, yeah. And it's a very, very special year. We'll see what happens. It's moving by, and half the stuff I said hasn't happened, so I'm going to look like a real fool for having preached about this year for 10 years. What I want to say to you is 6-Day War. Oh, sixth day of the 6th week was the 6-Day War. It also was, you ready for this? This is weird. LSD left the laboratory and hit the streets on the 6th day of the 6th week in 1967. Same exact day of the 6-Day War. Real big series. Why? Because until then, for anyone to have a full shamanistic, like medicine man type experience where you get to go to the ether to like the other side, you'd have to go to like an Indian reservation, or you'd have to like fly to Peru and go to the ayahuasca ceremonies and stuff. You had to like really, you'd have to be like dedicated and spiritually fit for it and prepare yourself for a full shamanistic experience. All of a sudden it was like all over Manhattan, all over LA. I had a Rabbi in Jerusalem who was a secular kid, 18 years old in high school, senior year in high school in Greenwich Village in Manhattan. He said everyone was on it. Everyone was having these deeply, deeply spiritual, blow your mind experiences, and were changed permanently as a result. And it's not just that. I have a lot more to say about that. You're going to hear about it tomorrow, of what was the final outcome of it all, which will culminate in taking down countries with iPhones. Okay, and it all comes from that generation, and that's what's going to create the game of the end game, and it's really cool stuff. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But the last thing I want to share was that began the call back to Torah, and the whole movement today to have a class like this, which is a movement toward Torah. After since the Enlightenment, 200 years ago, everyone's going away from Torah as fast as they can. It's to the point where probably most of you were raised assimilated. So the call to go back to Torah was from the 6th day of the 6th week of 1967. So again, what I'm trying to say, I wanted to culminate the class with just explaining to you how powerful these convergences are that are happening during these 7 weeks. Clear? That's what I wanted to share. Okay? Shalom.